one thing I'm genuinely surprised about is the Steam Deck. Not like the original sales, but the fact the Steam Deck is still selling, like, after all of these years. Like, it's still selling, like, quite consistently. Like, weirdly consistently. I don't know how. I don't know why. Like, it's just, like, it's been sitting near the top of the charts on the global sellers. It's, like, dipped down a bit as certain things happen, but, like, for the most part, it's just been chilling there. People have just been buying the Steam Deck, and this is even though the fact that, at this point, a lot of games are, like, I think Doom Dark Ages, is having a lot of issues on the Steam Deck. Doom Dark Ages, Steam Deck. Yeah. So, this is a great title. Doom the Dark Ages on Steam Deck is a nightmare even at low quality and in linear levels. I've seen some people saying it's not that bad. Like, Ars Technica here is saying surprisingly playable. Low settings, 800p. Maybe there was an update to Proton that made it perform a little bit better. Because that's not how other people were describing it. And it makes sense, right? Like, the Steam Deck wasn't a super high-powered device when it came out. Now it's 3 years on, and games are getting more expensive to run, more taxing to run, and the Steam Deck is the same hardware it was at that point. I do think a Steam Deck refresh is... It is not necessary, but it's definitely something which I hope Valve is considering. Because the Steam Deck did such a phenomenal job at promoting Linux gaming and showing that it was possible. And I know they want to wait for, like, some big jump to happen to really do it. I would be very surprised if there were not some sort of internal engineering, at least prototypes, of a Steam Deck 2. And if there's not, I don't know what their engineering team is doing. Like, the bare minimum, there's at least been meetings discussing, do we want to do so? Is this a good idea? Should we pull this original Steam Deck and do something? Like, I will be surprised if we don't see a Steam Deck refresh, right? Because it's done so well, it just doesn't make any sense to not do so. I know there are a lot of these other handhelds on the market as well, and maybe they wanted to shift things over there and focus more on the software side. I guess I could see that as well. But it would feel like a giant letdown if we don't actually see a Steam Deck 2. It feels like... It feels like it would be like a wasted opportunity. They built so much goodwill doing this. If they just kind of neglected it... I don't know. Like, Proton's not going anywhere, right? Like, Proton's still going to do its thing. Proton's still getting better and better and better. But the Steam Deck itself is... Yeah. I don't use my Steam Deck anywhere near as much as I should, but when I do use it, it's basically used as, like, an indie machine and, like, light game machine. I don't try to play, like, AAA games on it. Apparently, like, Oblivion is playable. Not great, but, like, surprisingly playable on low settings. Let's see what this person says. Seeing some people say, like, 20s, 30s, which is better than I would have expected. Obviously, you can go back and play the original Oblivion with mods, and it's going to perform so much better. But, like, you know, it's a very, very different situation then. I still have hopes for a new Steam Deck. Especially when we see things like this coming out. Like, even if the Steam Deck doesn't get a refresh. SteamOS itself, I think they're going to put more effort into. So they recently announced this thing called SteamOS compatibility. This is like the Steam Deck compatibility, but is a more general thing. So they now have two separate categories regarding compatibility. They have the Steam Deck category and the SteamOS category. So if you're running SteamOS on like Lenovo Legion Go S or any other devices that may support in the future, this is about more general support and not like specifically. So the Steam Deck category also takes into consideration like performance and things like that. This is more about like, does it generally work on SteamOS? Now, I've said before, I have my issues with Valve's verification system, and I do think that it needs a complete rework, because there's a lot of games which are marked as playable, which are not. There are games which are marked as verified, which are not. There are games that are marked as not playable, which are very playable. I do think it would make more sense to adopt a more ProtonDB-like system. ProtonDB has done a phenomenal fucking job at letting people know whether games do or don't work. I think Steam's system is very flawed, and there's no reason why they couldn't do something in cooperation with ProtonDB that would be millions of times better. I've said this before. I think they could have a direct integration with ProtonDB. Maybe like integrate it into their review system, something like that, so people know directly in the Steam client what they can do to fix a game, how a game works, all this sort of stuff, and it would be better for everyone. Like, they could, like, roll their own system, but I think integrating ProtonDB and, like, supporting them directly would be a better way to do it. Like, Valve has already shown before they are very willing to not step over the FOSS projects, but actually integrate them into what they're doing. Like, this is what was done with... Like, this is why Proton exists. Proton is made as a combination of DXVK and VKD3D. Yeah, VKD3D. Like, bringing those projects in to a combination of Wine, which things also get upstreamed into. Like, Valve seems to want to be a good member of the FOSS ecosystem here. And then everything they're doing is also open source as well, even though in some cases they absolutely could make it proprietary. So it just seems weird to me that you wouldn't also just, like, address that system. Maybe they think, like, the system works well, even with all the criticism, like, that's been done. I do think having... Do they have an anti-cheat listing? Well, I guess that's... Okay, no, that is part of the Steam Deck compatibility. That's a bit different. I do think having this bit more granular as well, though, would also be a good idea. So a game might have... A game like GTA 5. A game like GTA 5, for example, you can play through the single player perfectly fine, but the multiplayer is... You can't play it because of anti-cheat. I do think making that distinction clear would be good, because there's a lot of people that would want to play through GTA 5, but don't care about multiplayer. I'm one of those people. But it can give them a misunderstanding of the actual state of things if they look at it and it says that it's not actually compatible. There's a lot of, like, little changes that, like... Look, if anybody from Valve wants some ideas on how they could massively improve the system, my email's there. Reach out to me. I would absolutely love to chat. I have some ideas about how the system could be a million times better. I don't think anyone's going to reach out. But if anybody does want to do so, yeah. You know where to find me.